All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today with all of you and to share this great program of the New England Aquarium. So the Marine Conservation Action Fund, as Katie mentioned, is based at the New England Aquarium, which is on Central Wharf in Boston. And many of you may have come to the aquarium and seen our great exhibits or experienced our great education programming, but we also have a Research and Conservation Institute that has many long-standing programs, including marine stress and ocean health, the Carouse Marine Mammal Conservation Program, which is focused on the North Atlantic right whale, Fisheries Science and Emerging Technologies, our Spatial Ecology Program. We have a robust conservation policy and advocacy program as well. And then the Marine Conservation Action Fund is also housed in the Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life. Now, MCAF is our most global program of all of these. And you can see here by this map, which was made by my talented colleague, Brooke Hodge, who's a GIS specialist, that MCAF is truly a global program. The larger circles show areas where we have had numerous projects. And since MCAF was founded in 1999, we have funded 160 projects in more than 50 countries and across 6 continents. We still don't have a project in Antarctica, so if anybody has one that they know of, please do let us know. And so, as Katie mentioned, MCAF is both a microgranting and a fellowship program. And so the microgranting piece is 20 years old, a little over 20 years old, started in 1999. The fellowship program is only about 4.5 years old. And I'm going to talk about today a bit about how the microgranting program, how we learned so much through those projects that it ended up growing the program into a fellowship, to adding on a fellowship program as well. So the beginning of the MCAF story is one where we started as a program that was like a funding ambulance for the ocean. We were filling a need for rapid turnaround funding that just didn't exist in the conservation funding realm at the time, for projects that needed faster turnaround time than other funders would provide. And so many of our early projects were true emergencies. This was back in 2000 when there was an oil spill in South Africa, and we sent a team from the aquarium using MCAF funds to rescue and rehabilitate these South African penguins. We've also responded to turtle strandings. And here's another project that was done in Grand Manan to rescue harbor porpoise from fishing weirs. So very much on the ground, urgent projects that needed quick funding right out the door. However, what we found, we also funded some projects that really seeded longer term initiatives. And we've learned so much from these projects over the years. And they're these community-based projects. And so I wanted to talk about some of these because these have really shaped the program to be what it is today, the learning that we have done through having the privilege of supporting these amazing people and amazing projects. So this first project is was to launch the first marine mammal stranding network in the country of Iran. And this was done back in 2008. And an organization called the Plan for the Land Society trained local people, these are firemen actually, rescuing a dolphin, to not only rescue stranded animals, but also to collect data on the animals that didn't survive. And so with support from MCAF, they created a document to share with community members. They went around and they trained local people how to respond to these strandings and how to report them. But as I mentioned, these projects were community-based. They weren't unilateral. So in addition to doing that, in addition to starting the stranding network and collecting the data, they also worked with local children in schools and taught them about the amazing animals in their backyard. In this case, they were focused on the Indian Ocean humpback dolphin. They made storybooks for the children so that they could appreciate these incredible animals that they had right there in the Persian Gulf. And then this work also spawned a second grant that led to further study on these marine animals in the Persian Gulf. And so we really learned from this broad-based, comprehensive approach. And in addition to that, we had the pleasure of hosting our the grantees from Iran at the aquarium, and had a chance for them to meet with our marine mammal scientists and tour our facilities. And that began to make us think about, you know, the incredible impact and power of having these close connections, not just funding the projects from afar, but really building relationships with the people we were funding. So another great example of one of these projects that was holistic and that we learned so much from was a scalloped hammerhead project in Costa Rica, led by Mission Tiburon or Mission Shark. Andres Lopez, who is now an MCAF Fellow, and his partner, Elena Zanella, who's an MCAF grantee. And so what they did is they started back in 2009, and we gave them a grant early in their project to look at critical habitats for juvenile scalloped hammerhead sharks. And so this is Andres and Elena here. And what they found was that this area of Golfo Dulce on the west coast of Costa Rica was critical habitat for these juvenile sharks. So in addition to the tagging data, similar to the Iran project, they also worked with local communities and children and helped them to appreciate these incredible animals that were, you know, in their backyards. And through all their efforts, and this was a decade of effort, a decade of advocacy, of science, of education, outreach, they were able to achieve their dream. And they stated this was their dream, Andres and Elena, to achieve Costa Rica's first ever shark sanctuary in Golfo Dulce, focused on these hammerhead sharks. And it really was because of their holistic community-based approach that all this was able to happen. After it was declared a sanctuary, it was also declared a hope spot by Mission Blue. And Elena Zanella went on to win a Whitley Award for her work. So again, this is a project that we saw as a model for how conservation should be done, and really taught us a lot. So the third project is, this is Kirsten Forsberg. She's a Peruvian marine biologist and social entrepreneur. And we funded her initially, her work back in 2012 at the beginnings of a project to look at giant manta rays in Peru. And what they did, she and her team went out to fish markets and landing sites and looked at the manta rays that were being landed. And so this is one of her team members in the fish market. And they also worked with fishermen to have them report sightings of the manta rays. And what they found was that the majority of these animals that were being landed were either juveniles or pregnant. And so that was obviously a huge concern for the sustainability of the fishery and of sustainability of the animals. And they also found that there was clearly an aggregation of these animals, an important aggregation of these animals off the coast of Peru. But in addition, as the theme is with these projects that have been so effective, in addition to doing the science, Kirsten also worked with youth in schools, helping them appreciate manta rays as a flagship species of Peru. She worked with local fishermen. And when this really big event happened, this tragic event, which many of you may have seen in 2015, she was able to use this tragic event for good. And that there was this manta ray was captured. It was 25 feet across, and it was captured incidentally, but brought in. And there was sort of outrage internationally about this. And Kirsten was able to leverage that with the connections she'd already made with with the government to convince them to go ahead and fully protect manta rays from harvest. So they achieved that ban on manta ray harvest at the very end of 2015. But as you know, with these conservation victories, it's not like that's the end of the story. That's really where the work begins, because Kirsten had built such strong ties with the fishing community and wanted to work on creating alternative livelihoods for them through manta ray ecotourism. Because also around the same time, a study came out that showed that manta rays are worth $500 dead for meat, but they're worth $1 million over the course of their lifetime to ecotourism. And so this man here in the center, these are two of Kirsten's team members, and this man here in the center is Edgardo Cruz. And Edgardo is the one who landed that 25-foot manta ray that I showed you. And he was vilified for that on social media, and people were harassing him. And Kirsten, because she had built such strong ties with the fishing community, she reached out to him and she said, "We'd love it if you came and worked with us. And we're trying to start manta ray ecotourism. Could you come and be a part of our program?" And so he did. And you can see him there wearing his Planeta Oceano t-shirt, which is Kirsten's organization. And he has since said that he wishes he could give up fishing altogether and be a manta ray ambassador full time. So that is, you know, a real success story due to her comprehensive approach, her relationship building approach. And it's also led to these new opportunities. So now they have a program through Earthwatch where people can go and see the manta rays, and it's the fishermen who run the boats to take the tourists out to see the manta rays, or the voluntourists who come out and help with the scientific work. So, and that program has grown since its early days. So it's an exciting success. So what we learned from all those programs is two key things. One, that these kinds of successes take a long time. And even when there is a success that's sort of a benchmark success that's in the news, that's really not the end. Like for Kirsten, this was the beginning of more work to not only deal with trying to create alternative livelihoods, but then there's issues of the mantas still being caught incidentally and all sorts of things. So we recognize that while we initially wanted to fund just sort of projects to seed a lot of things, we realized we needed to make a longer term investment in the people that we were funding. And we also recognized the benefit of this comprehensive multidisciplinary approach. And we felt that we should also be taking that same approach to the way that we were running the MCAF program. So that led to the creation of the Fellows Program, which was founded in 2015 as a pilot, a 3-year pilot with support from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And it started with these 10-day immersive visits. We had 3 fellows coming each year individually for 3 years in a row. And they were 10-day immersive visits at the aquarium with our scientists, our educators, youth, visitors. And it really formed the foundation of an enduring relationship that just continues on after that. Once you're a fellow, you're always a fellow, and we are always here to support you in your work. So some of the key strategies we use with the Fellows Program are, you know, providing funding through our grants, as well as leveraging funding through recommending other funders, providing recommendations to other funders for our fellows. We provide experiential learning opportunities at the aquarium. We have a huge diversity of audiences, like I said, from youth, from 5-year-olds all the way up to people who come to our lectures, and as well as our scientists and educators. So it's a great opportunity to communicate to a wide variety of audiences and to build an audience for their own work. We really promote two-way learning with other fellows in the aquarium community. And I often say, all of us who work with the fellows always say that we learn more from them than they learn from us, because they are such Renaissance people, I say, because they are not strictly scientists. They are scientists, they are educators, they do policy, they do advocacy, they really do it all. So there's an incredible learning opportunity for us as well as them. We work to elevate their profile through the aquarium's public platforms and through our media connections. And another big piece is the network and the community building. And we provide a lot of individualized attention. The foundation of this program is relationships and getting to know our fellows really well, and so that we can support them and support their work over the long term. And then the multiplier effect of having our fellows' work influence the next generation, not only where they are, but also in our own community. And so examples of these are when our fellows come. This is MCAF Fellow Asha DeVos, who's a Sri Lankan blue whale scientist and the founder of Ocean Swell. And so here she's meeting with one of our scientists. She was working on shipping lanes, the issue of shipping lanes in Sri Lanka, and trying to eventually get them moved to protect blue whales. And our team at the New England Aquarium has had success doing just that years ago to protect the critically endangered North Atlantic right whale. This is Tomas Jain, who's a renowned sea turtle conservationist. He's one of our fellows who works in Senegal, and here he is in our sea turtle rescue and rehab facility helping to care for one of the turtles. So this is during his fellowship visit. And then we also piloted for the first time having one of our fellows, this is Florencia Vilches, who's an Argentinian southern right whale researcher on the left. And she was embedded with our North Atlantic right whale team, which has a field season in Maine. And so she spent 2 weeks with them learning about their protocols and sharing her work that she does on the Patagonian right whale in Argentina. So we also work to elevate, as I mentioned, elevate the profile of our fellows, including we have our public lecture series in the IMAX Theater, or the Simons Theater, as it's now known, at the aquarium. And we also have a great media and communications team that has terrific connections with local media outlets, as well as national and international media outlets. And so this was MCAF Fellow Anna Poza, who's from the Philippines, on the take at the New England Cable News show. We had a terrific series in Forbes. So we had a connection with this Forbes writer, Andrew White, who ended up doing a series on just about all of our fellows. He did an article on almost each and every one of them. And then we had the good fortune of having our work as well as our grantees' work featured in the New York Times a few years back. So as I mentioned, we also focus on the multiplier effect of having our fellows' work influence the next generation. And so we do that through, when they come to the aquarium, connecting them with the youth in our programs. And so this is Lucy Keith Jain. She is a manatee researcher, conservationist who works in West Africa. And she had this specially made manatee costume. And so the campers in our program would don the manatee costume, and we put them through a obstacle course that manatees might face in the wild with plastic trash and nets. And then her husband, Tomas, who's the sea turtle researcher I mentioned earlier, waited in the dark with a harpoon and choked out at them at the end, which was kind of fun. So we try to make it very interactive for the students so that they can learn firsthand as much as possible about the work of these incredible international scientists. We had another activity that we did with our teens where this is Andres Lopez, who I mentioned, who has the Shark Project in Costa Rica. And we had, he brought with him acoustic receivers, because that is how they do a lot of their tagging work, is they implant acoustic tags inside the sharks. That is a bit like an easy pass, that when it passes the receiver, the receiver picks up a ping. And so he brought a couple of tags and an actual receiver with him all the way from Costa Rica. And I purchased some stuffed sharks on Amazon. And the kids cut open the sharks and implanted the tags and sewed them back up. And then we had a tub of water that, because it's, they don't work well in the air. So we had to get a Rubbermaid tub of water, and we put the sharks in and kind of moved them around. And the receiver picked up the data, and then we downloaded it, and they were able to see what that data looked like. And then he went on to explain, like, this is how we've made the case for the shark sanctuary, is through collecting this data, which shows that these sharks are, these baby sharks are spending a lot of time here in this one area. So it was a really great way to bring their work to life for these teens. This is Florencia Vilches, who's the right whale researcher. So she brought images of her whales from Argentina, and the students had to make a match with unknown images to known images, which mimics the work that she does in the field to build this long-standing right whale catalog, such as the one that we also have at the aquarium. And then this is Enrique Uribe, also from the Shark Project in Costa Rica, working with our visitors in the aquarium. So we would set up our fellows at a table in the aquarium, and anybody, young and old, could come and learn about the work of our fellows. We also work with local schools. And so in the middle here is Daniel Fernando, who's a Sri Lankan shark and ray scientist. He's there in the suit, you can pick him out, surrounded by this group of kids who he gave a terrific presentation for them and a long Q&A session. They were very excited and inspired. And Kirsten Forsberg visited the Amigos School in Boston, which is a bilingual school, and many of the students' families originate from Latin America. And so she gave her presentation completely in Spanish, which was fantastic. And we had these incredible notes from the students where one of them wrote that in the bottom right there, that she was the first Latina scientists that they had met, and that she inspired them very much. And then there was another quote that you've inspired me to help people or animals and change the world as a young woman and bilingual as well. So it was really fantastic to be able to bring these incredible leaders out into the community and inspire and empower youth. And then the other great aspect of being an aquarium is that there's opportunities for a lot of fun and a lot of immersive experiences. This is Tomas Jain, who is feeding Myrtle, probably our most famous resident of the New England Aquarium, because she's been there since it opened in 1969, because the aquarium is 50 years old. So he had a chance to feed Myrtle during his visit. And this is Kirsten Forsberg, had a chance to dive in our giant ocean tank, and that's her daughter on the other side as she was in the tank. And this is Florencia Vilches and myself during her visit. So the point of all this fun is really for the fellows to, first of all, fun is, I think, such an important thing in its own right. And but also it's really critical for the fellows to feel a part of our community. We give them these special tours and special experiences so they know that they are part of our aquarium family, and we are here for them for the long term. But one of the most critical and recent things we did in terms of community building was we hosted our first ever MCAF Fellows Summit last fall. And through the summit, we brought together 11 of our 12 fellows from across the globe. And it was about a week in all of time that we had them with us. And it was a fantastic experience. We had roundtable discussions. We had a Conservation X Labs. If you're familiar with Conservation X Labs, we had a Conservation X Labs mini think that actually Jenny participated in. We had a session where the fellows were able to present their work to a variety of audiences, and then sort of had a networking evening that followed that. And probably the highlight for me was we had a symposium called Building Community, which was all about community-based conservation. And it featured not only our fellows, but local community leaders in Boston talking about sort of the origins, the challenges, and how to achieve successes and build on them through community-based conservation. It was just an incredible day of storytelling and sharing ideas and people building connections. We had a panel on the power of engaging youth with Anna Opoza. And we had this amazing graphic scribe who brought all these ideas together that were generated during the summit. And so through the summit and through the experience from our projects and feedback from our fellows, as well as communities of practice that we've been in, we're building on the strong foundation of the program and thinking ahead to its next 5 years. And we are really guided by this idea from our fellow Asha DeVos, who's incredible. I believe that if we want to save our oceans, every coastline needs a local hero, someone who speaks the language, can see the problems, and can help to address the solutions. Someone who is invested in the long term. And so that is really our approach, is to help support local heroes on coastlines across the globe. And we are, although that has not been our entire history, we are now focused completely on developing countries. And more, we're focused on reaching more people who are nationals of developing countries. Oops, sorry, somehow didn't want to go. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So this is our vision for the future: a healthy, vibrant, and prosperous ocean stewarded by local conservation leaders along with their communities for generations to come. And so our core strategies for the coming 5 years is we really want to grow our visibility and accessibility and support of conservation leaders who are from developing countries. And some of that includes ideas and investments such as reaching people for whom English, who don't have English competency. We want to make sure that we're accessible to those folks as well. So we're thinking about how to do that through some translation services, how to make ourselves more visible to those places where we've not been visible before. We want to deepen our support of our MCAF Fellows. They really are our key partners. They're incredible leaders. And so we are thinking of other types of grant opportunities, other types of ways that we can support them over the long term. We want to support our fellows' efforts to build local capacity in their community. We want to foster learning, exchange, and collaboration, not only just through network and opportunities online and making connections, but we've also want to issue grants in support of that. We just issued a grant early this year to support a learning exchange between Kirsten Forsberg's team members, junior scientists from her team, and Andres Lopez to learn shark tagging techniques in Costa Rica. And we want to do a lot more of that as we move forward. We want to grow and maintain our emergency funds. As I mentioned, MCAF started out as a funding ambulance for the ocean, and that's a critical role that we play and that we will always play. And as I'll talk about in a second, emergencies aren't always just about oil spills, as we all know from our current experience. We want to monitor, measure, and adapt. Now, during the COVID crisis, we are obviously, right now, we're trying to deal with what we have in front of us. And one of the big issues is the continuity and sustainability of our fellows' work. And so that is a big part of what we're focused on right now, is providing emergency funding for the fellows so that they can continue their work, even if it is about making sure they keep key staff. It's not necessarily a specific project, it's more operational at this time, just so that they can keep going, because we don't want to lose them. Conservation, the world needs them, so we are doing everything we can to keep them in place and keep them, oops, that's my cat, keep them moving forward. One of the things we're doing that we can provide now while we're all here in our houses is assistance with GIS. So I mentioned my colleague Brooke Hodge, who is an expert in GIS at the Anderson Cabot Center, and so she is mapping some of our fellows' projects so that they can then have a mapping product or a figure for a paper or things such as that. We're providing intern support. We have a robust volunteer program at the New England Aquarium, and we're trying to provide support remotely to our fellows for projects that they can do from their home. And we're going to be building our virtual programming. So as you can see, the program is based a lot on in-person visits and things such as that. And we had a summit, and so we're thinking about now, like everybody, how do we take a lot of this online? We've had our fellows doing Facebook Lives. The aquarium has a Facebook Live every day at 11 o'clock. Great programming if you want to tune in. And our fellows have been doing some of those Facebook Live events. And the next one is actually this Wednesday with Shaw Selby. So that also feeds into what we're trying to do, is continue to promote their work through these types of opportunities on Facebook Live and otherwise, so the methods we've used in the past through media and social media. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to acknowledge our donors who make the MCAF program possible: the New England Biolabs Foundation, the Curtis and Edith Munson Foundation, individual donors. We had a recent gift that is helping to make these emergency grants possible, so thank you. The MCAF committee, I haven't had a chance to mention that our proposals are reviewed by a volunteer committee of advisors from all around the world, many of them who've been with the program since its beginning. So we really couldn't do this without them. And then of course our grantees and fellows that have really shaped the program and taught us so much through their incredible work that they're doing around the world. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about the MCAF program, we have, in addition to that map I showed earlier by my colleague Brooke, she also created a fantastic interactive map that we have on the MCAF webpage, and there's a little shortcut to it there. But if you go to the website, you can find it there, the MCAF webpage, as well as we have a Facebook group that you can join to stay updated on our projects, and Twitter, we have a Twitter account. My work email is right there. And if you want to learn more about the Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life, there's the link for that as well. So now that's it. I'm ready for any questions. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. Very, very inspiring. You've got a bunch of claps in the chat.
Okay, thank you.